Welcome back to the Aesthetic Blueprint, the official podcast of Symplast, the all-in-one solution for aesthetic practices. And my name is Jes Wisner. I'm the head of client education and product evangelism here at Symplast. And today I am joined by the incomparable David Staughton. Welcome to the podcast, sir.
Hi, thank you very much for having me.
Yeah.
What a fabulous place we've got here today.
Yeah, so we're currently at Plastic Surgery, the meeting, 2025 in New Orleans. And I had the pleasure of meeting you for the first time yesterday. And you are a practice growth consultant, correct?
That's right, yes. Started in Australia, growing practices. And we just started with one little surgeon and grew it to a great big group of surgeons. And then from there, started to grow other practices, and it became a bit addictive. So I've been fascinated by how do you grow practices, because whether the surgeon's young or at the peak or even moving maturely towards retirement, they all generally want to grow and get the most out of their practice.
Yeah, and I work with hundreds of practices, right? And that is always the number one topic that people want to cover when they're working with us. And of course, it's part of why they come to Symplast, is to help grow their practice as a solution within it. But I think more interesting to me within the conversation I'd like to have with you is, what are those common pitfalls that you see with practices that really hinder or slow growth?
Yes, I've always been wondered for a long time who actually is in charge of running the practice or growing the practice. And sometimes the surgeon thinks they're sort of in charge, but they really don't have an awful lot of bandwidth to do it, because a busy practice, they're so busy doing the surgery and looking after all the patients that they're flat out. And sometimes the practice manager is more of a practice caretaker. They're so busy just getting the work done. And so sometimes then it's like, well, who is the one that's growing this practice, and who is looking at all of the metrics and seeing whether it's growing, and how many leads are we getting, and how many consults are we doing, and how many patients and surgeries, and what's happening with the trends, and why is this dropping off? And realistically, it's, where the attention goes, the money flows. So
Right.
Sometimes when they're paying more attention to other things, there's nobody running the practice. So I come in and just have a look, and we just start with, when did you last put up your prices? And for many practices, they go, oh yeah, that was 3 years ago or 5 years ago. And you go, well, we've moved on since then. And
Yeah.
So I'm famous for just, at some of the conferences, just going, put up your prices, because in a fast inflating world, they go, oh, it's a bit quiet, so I'll just discount or I'll reduce our prices. So pricing and price confidence is one of my favorite things to start with.
And I feel like you're after my own heart. From my time as a practice manager, that was something that the owner and I would sit down, and we started to really dig into the numbers at one point and realize that in the realm of all the different services we offer, because I was at a very large med spa, day spa, wellness center, we started to crunch the numbers and looking at some of those like true cost analysis, right? When you're looking at the overhead and the cost of supplies and all of that. And there was, like I said, we were a day spa as well. Granted, not quite within, most aesthetic practices aren't offering that. But one of the things we looked at in particular was like nail services. I mean, it's low hanging fruit, but we had it. We realized we were only making $1 to 50 cents per service for an hour.
Yes.
By the time we were done looking at cost. Now, that's a very specific example, of course, from my time, but where do you see that within plastic surgery practices, where that hidden loss is coming in?
Well, many practices don't charge for consults, which is always a bit of a problem. So
That's
many
an
of
easy
the other growth consultants in this industry will say, you really want to be charging for consults as a thing. I mean, it's not so much we're in the business of consults, we're in the business of making sure people turn up for those consults. So that's why we want to be charging at least something. So that's a place to start. But for the biggest one, it's just they haven't put their prices up for a long time. So my favorite is to be putting the prices up every 6 months. And if you're not getting enough business, if you don't have enough cases, then that's usually a customer service, sales and marketing problem, not a pricing problem. Whereas they go, oh my goodness, we're too expensive, we'll discount our way to success. And that's never going to work. So my suggestion is you put your prices up, and lo and behold, you get more money for the same results. So, and then beyond that, we then start fixing the customer service, the sales and the marketing. And I usually start by tracking what's been happening to people's consults. And the answer is the consult conversions have not been watched, and it's been drifting off. And usually it's because we haven't been following them up as well as we could.
Yeah, well, and I think that's such an interesting thing too, is because you can have everything in place, right? You can have your pricing is on point. You're collecting those consult fees. You're doing online booking, deposits, those types of things, and you've got great customer service. But then the patient gets in the room, and for some reason they're not converting.
Yes.
And that's where that conversation and that consultation becomes that pivotal moment in order to see your practice grow. Where do you see the physicians that you work with really getting caught up within their consultations and not being effective in being able to convert?
So some people have got the natural ability to influence, persuade, or shall we say sell. And other ones are what's called professional sales murderers. And that's where, and they can be on the front desk, or it could be a patient coordinator, or it could even be the surgeon. Some people were just not cut out to be, shall we say, promoting things. And so usually out of 10 people that you see, 3 people love you, so you're going to get those anyway. 3 people don't like you very much, and 4 people could go either way depending on your mood. So what was really funny, we studied some of the plastic surgeons who had like a bad day. They ran over the dog on the way to work or something, and they're all unhappy. And so that day they converted really badly because they just weren't in the mood. And the same thing with sellers is that winners win. If you've been on a roll, convert, you're going really well. But if you've been didn't convert, they get unhappy as well. So a lot of it's the mood of the surgeon, a lot of it's the mood of the patient coordinator if they've got one. And another one is that the more you can pre-educate them using automation systems, or a pre-consult call, the more likely they are to be ready to buy. It's no good that they just filled in the patient registration immediately before they walked in, and we go in cold and they know nothing about it. You're not pretty unlikely to get those ones over the line. So there's a couple of things that says set yourself up for success and get patients that are ready to buy effectively. So that's all in the warm up, because anything you say before the consult is 10 times more powerful than things you say after the consult. Because even just getting hold of them afterwards to phone them or ring them or check in on them if they haven't bought, you've missed the boat. Very, very few people come in after the consultation to buy. You think that, this one will convert. Yeah, I've been tracking that for 10 years. They don't. Less than 5% would convert afterwards.
Yeah, well, I think that the analogy that I'm thinking of as you're talking is, a symphony orchestra doesn't show up on the stage and they're just reading the music cold, right? They've warmed up, they've practiced, they've done months of practice. And that kind of goes to converting a patient as well, where it's all about the lead up to the actual concert, right? Or the actual consultation, where you have to put the work in ahead of time. It's not just your consultation as a singular thing that's going to cause them to convert, but it's all the things you did before then to nurture it and prime them to be able to have a successful consultation.
So this is where you'll convert better for people that have come from word of mouth, because they've spoken to their friend, they watched the thing happen, they've got a rough idea of the price, versus someone who was scrolling through Facebook and then clicked on your ad. They're really cold. So what will convert really well is your word of mouth from patients, word of mouth from the industry, other medical providers. They'll convert rather well. Then you'll have ones from the web that have at least read your website, watched some videos. They'll convert not as well, but reasonably. And then Google AdWords, who just don't know you very much. And then worse than that is some social media ads, which will convert very poorly.
Yeah.
So
and I think even
that's your mix.
Yeah, because if we're talking, very top of the funnel, right? Google Ads, that's like as high on the funnel as you can get, right? And then they come to your website. Do you also see pitfalls within websites that are creating, areas, black holes within the conversion funnel?
Yeah, I find occasionally some of the surgeons, after I've been working with them for a year or two, they tell me that their favourite operation is this one here and they're really great at it. And it's like, well, it's news to me. It's the first time you've told me, and also it's not even on your website. So
amazing,
bit of a hint that's called, don't keep it a secret that you do this or use this particular technique and things. So just keeping your website correct with what you do have and what you are offering. I see lots of people buy a new device, which is like launching a whole new business, but there's no business plan. It's not put up on the website. You don't tell anybody about it. You don't put it out to your database. And then you wonder why that device sits there not being used. So it's quite common.
Yeah, no, and I would say I've seen that time and time again. Or even so, you'll get people that come to your website because you've forgotten to remove a service that you don't do anymore, right?
Yes, the staff certainly let you know about that because they're getting abused by someone at the front desk that says, it's on the website, and you go, oh yes, we forgot to take that off, that we've stopped doing laser skin or laser hair or something.
Yeah. Now let's talk just a little bit briefly about your staff in particular, because that can be a make or break point as well for practices. What do you see successful practices doing in order to get their staff to help with that conversion process?
So you have to, salespeople are slightly different in a medical practice. So lots of them in the medical practice are ones that are designed to be very process orientated and just get things done. And they're nurses, they're not usually designed to sell. Nurses that can sell are usually working selling pharmaceutical products or medical devices or running their own med spa. So we've mostly got a lot of nurses in the practice that are not particularly brilliant at selling. And then there are some other staff as well that might not necessarily be a sales-orientated one. They're just mostly process. They're kind of a bit introverted. They're excellent and accurate, but they don't really like to sell. So what I find is that the staff is a reflection of the mindset of the boss, and you get the staff that you deserve. If you're not a very good boss and leader, you repel a whole lot of the good staff and you attract a whole lot of ones that will put up with you. So sometimes just a bit of leadership skills will go a long way. And that's interesting. And then some people just have this mantra that goes, I can't find any good staff, I can't find any good staff. And I go, no, there's plenty of good staff out there, they just won't work for you. So there's been some that have a really reputation in the industry that you've upset a lot of people and you've burnt a lot of bridges, and that kind of driven you into a hole of only the staff that will suffer your practice, they're the ones that you've got, which is really wicked, but I'm trying to just call it how it is. There are lots and lots of good staff out there, and if your offer is good, you can get them and keep them. A lot of them, sometimes we lose them because the onboarding is not very good. So they were not felt welcome, so you pretty much set them up to fail. And another big one is that if you don't like them, you tend to find all their faults is another problem as well. But I can go on for days about staffing issues, but it's to do with the leadership, and it's to do with the culture, and it's to do with how you treat people. I found something the other day that says, the more people you like, the more people like you, which was interesting. So
that's so true, though.
If you go around and don't like anybody and you're naturally an angry person, well, there's pills for that. And there's a whole lot of other techniques that work, but basically just you're angry at people and you take that out on the staff, they will not be there for very long.
This is so true. And I've seen that as well. With the practices I work with, and even in my past.
It's interesting. A lot of surgeons benchmark themselves against another practice where they seem to have all great staff, and then they think, why can't I recruit great staff? Well, the bottom line is you recruit good staff and you make them great. There are no great. You can hire a great staff person and put them in your practice, and they won't necessarily be great if it's not the place to thrive. So all I can ever say is hire good and turn them into great, and turning them into great is on you. Whereas they go, how come they've got 5 great staff and my staff are not good? And you cannot sack your way to success. You can't just go keep sacking people hoping to find, hiring great ones. Well, it's just hire good ones and turn them into great ones.
My gosh, if that's not like the perfect bullet point to wrap things up on, this has been such a great conversation. I want people to be able to follow up with you. How do they get in touch with you? What are your socials, or where do they find you? LinkedIn or...
Yeah, I've got a website, and I just made a new one, and I built an enormous learning academy with hundreds of articles for people who wanted to, because I know lots of plastic surgeons, and it's all free. So it's called Learn, L-E-A-R-N, Learn S-P-E, which is the name of the company, Specialist Practice Excellence. So it's learnspe.com. And if you go there, you'll find a ton of articles for every member of the staff. People have been saying, I've got to recruit and train all these people. I go, well, here's all this material I've collected over 10 years. Just here, have it. And so I've just put it all up there for free. So learnspe.com, and you'll find me, or David Staughton, S-T-A-U-G-H-T-O-N as well, .com.au.
Fantastic. David, thank you so much for the conversation today and stopping by the booth and doing this podcast with me. So many beautiful nuggets in this short little conversation, but absolutely love it. I hope we get to do this again soon. Thank you so much for your time, and hopefully everyone learnspe.com in order to get in touch with David and learn more about how he can help practices like yours.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Thank you so much. Yes.
Jennifer
Thanks.
and Symplast.
See you guys on the next one.